Okay, so welcome back. So today we're going to start talking about adding whole numbers and decimal numbers, okay, or just decimals. So we're going to start with the idea, again, vocabulary and concepts that some of you may be familiar with or maybe you're not, okay? So let's get started. So in this case here, we're going to talk about addition. So addition is an operation by which we put two numbers together for a total. Okay, so we're combining groups of things, groups of objects together. So it's where we're basically combining objects, right? So addition is where we take two numbers and add them together. Okay, whole numbers or decimals. Okay, so addition, which is also, by the way, we call this a binary operation. And what that means is that we are, usually if we have a group of numbers of 3 or more, we're going to add the numbers 2 at a time. Okay, so that's why we call it a binary operation. It's an operation that involves in combining numbers together, okay, by adding. Okay, the two numbers, just so we are clear, the two numbers that we add, right, A plus B, so let's say A and B are two numbers. These two numbers that we're adding are called the addends. Okay. Okay. What these two numbers add up to is called the sum or total. Okay, so that's general terminology. Now let's go through some properties of addition. Okay. So what are some properties of addition? Well, one property that you may be familiar with is called the commutative property. Oops. For addition. Okay, and it's important to make sure we are talking about addition. Okay, not to be confused with the commutative property of multiplication that we'll talk about later. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, commutative means that it doesn't matter the order in which we add the numbers. We're still going to get the same total. That's what commutative property means. Commute, think of commute means motion. You commute to work, right? How do you commute to work? You go by car, bus, train, what have you, okay? So commute is you're moving things around. So what that means is if I have two numbers, it doesn't matter what order I add them in. I will always get the same answer. Oops. Right? That is always true for addition. Okay? That's the commutative property. Another property is what we call the associative property. For addition. Again, there's one for multiplication, but so that's why we want to make sure that we know which property we are talking about. And this is the associative property for addition. So what does this mean? What does associative mean? Associative means that it doesn't matter how I group the numbers when I add them. I'm always going to get the same answer. So let me demonstrate. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, I could have something like this. So it doesn't matter if I add these two first and then add this sum to C, or if I add these two first and add this sum to A, I'm always going to get the same answer. So again, quick example would be if I have something like this. If I add these two first, that's going to give me 7 plus 1, which equals 8. Or if I add these two, hold on a second. Yeah, that's right. If I add these two first, that's going to give me 5, which is still going to give me 8. And that's it. So that's an example of how the associative property works for addition. Now, there's also a couple other properties that are what we want to know. One of the properties is called the zero property for addition, or of addition. So what does the zero property mean? Well, it means that there exists a number in which if I add that number to any other number, I will get the same number back. Okay, so again, that's a mouthful and you might not understand what I'm saying. It might be a little confusing, so let me show you. There exists a number that you can add to any other number that leaves the number that you're adding to unchanged. So what number do we know that has that property? Zero, right? So again, in general, the zero additive property means that, hey, if I have A plus some other number B such that I get A back. Well, what number is B? What number does that? Well, there's only one. It's 0. So this is the zero property. And we call 0, right? So 0 is called what we call the additive identity. The additive identity. That's what we call 0. And that is the zero property for addition. So you can take the additive identity, which is 0, add it to any other number, and you'll get the same number out. Or it will leave the number unchanged. Okay? That is the zero property for addition. Now, how do we add whole numbers of 2 or more digits? What if we have numbers that are more than 2 digits? How do we add them? Here is how we do it. Here are the steps. One, we want to arrange the numbers in columns, right? So we want to stack them in columns such that the digits in the ones place are in the same column. So we want to arrange the numbers into columns so that the ones digits are in the same column. Oops. Okay, and then 2, we're going to add down the columns starting with the ones column. Okay, so now this is dealing with whole numbers, right? We're not dealing with decimals yet. Okay. Okay. 2, we're going to add the ones digits the ones column. We're going to add the ones column followed by the tens column followed by the hundreds column and so on until we reach the end. Okay? So until all the columns have been added. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind for step 2. What we're going to have to do is sometimes is we're going to have to regroup sometimes. So regroup when necessary. This means when any column adds to more than 9. Remember that? So when any column adds to more than 9. Because remember, we have a base 10 system, which means anything that's bigger than 9 goes to the next column, right? This is what we call carrying, right? This is also known as carrying, right? When you say carry the 1 or carry the 2, right? You're regrouping, okay? Okay, so next time, so again, in the next video, I'm going to do an example, and I'm going to do actually a couple of problems and show you how this works, and then I'm also going to show you a little shortcut of how I do it differently. Okay, so again, till next time, have a great day, and I'll see you then.